Well, one thing that I think is very interesting to talk about the catch up is they're actually having diminishing returns on training. And so we're getting to the point where we're getting to the scaling wall, and we're at this point we're getting I say pretty close or very close to the point of maximum yield, to where you have already gotten all the increasing returns on optimizing the model. And now if you spend any more money on training or time on training or make it more complex, the actually it's not worth it. And the model becomes overtrained, or it just doesn't perform well, or it's a waste of money. Kind of all those things. I'm not sure exactly how they're measuring it, but when you're training a model, you can get to a certain point where you overtrain it and it actually gets worse. And it's just like, here's the optimal yield. Like, here's the curve. This is where we want to be. And so we're getting to that point where companies have trained, which is an insane amount, but they've trained all the data on the internet, and then they're running out of data, and so they're making their own data. And so that kind of puts into perspective how far they've taken things. And now they're getting to the point like, hey, well, it's actually not worth it to keep going, which I think is really cool. One, and then two, it makes things problematic for one, closed models, right? Like if you're getting to the point of diminishing return, then there should be a catch up with companies like Meta, because Meta has good talent. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the chips. So they should get to the point to where they are at the point of, hey, we're getting diminishing returns here. And hopefully, if that open source model is close to what Google and Anthropic and OpenAI are producing, then why would you use a closed source model when you could use an open source model? Like, the first thing that you should look for is open source model, because the weights are open. But I would like to see how that plays out. But the next thing that I think is interesting about this whole topic about the diminishing returns is OpenAI was positioned and is positioned, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, as the sun, the best talent, the best models, the best everything, best ecosystem, all that stuff. And what happens when you do that is that's the expectation. The market expects you to be the best. And if you're not the best, then you're a loser. Whereas Anthropic has positioned themselves as, hey, we really like enterprise stuff, and we like law, and we like our safe model. So they're the safety guys. Anthropic is the safety people. OpenAI is the trailblazers, the big sun, the people with the gravitas. And then Google is the sleeping giant that has woken up. And so the positioning of Google is like, hey, we have the data, we have the infrastructure, we've got the chips. We were just being too conservative. We fell asleep at the wheel. We'll get this right in a couple of years. And Google has made things right. Their model is consistently very competitive compared to their peers. I mean, they had to go through Bard, and then they did the Gemini, Gemma, Jim, and now they're at the point to where they're at Pro and Fast. And those models, like Fast, is per cost per compute is very, very good, and it is a very solid model for the cost to use the model for both Google and if you're using it via API as a developer. And then Pro is consistently like at the top of the benchmarks, first, second, sometimes third, but a lot of times it's first or second, and it's going head to head with OpenAI. But the problem with OpenAI is they don't have the same infrastructure as Google. It's not even close. So now we find ourselves in this place to where the market expectation for OpenAI was to be the best. And now that they have they have potentially they've potentially removed the market confidence that they can execute on being the leader consistently. And so the footing that they sit on is shaky. And it never used to be. There's no one really challenging OpenAI like to the point to where they're questioning what do they need to do next? What's the next big push? And that's where things become very, very fun. It's a place to where things are unexpected and you get the best product. I always talk about like competition is so good. It's so good for customers. So if you're a consumer, it's awesome. And if you're into science, it's awesome because this is some sci-fi stuff. Like we're getting sci-fi stuff and it's all being pushed by capital and competition. But I mean the capital is just half the problem. Maybe a third of the problem. The talent and the drive is really the other thing. And then I've even mentioned X and they're pushing on their own. They're trying to go to Mars. And so their model is going to go into the Tesla Optimus, I think it's called, a little robot. So I just think it's very interesting and how these models are positioned. Like